this one. You know, I say this every day. If I pushed all the right buttons, who knows? Who knows?
I did a live on Facebook last night.
Just so that you know, we're on live. Just so that, go ahead, tell us.
Yes, thank you. I did a live on Facebook last night, and for some bizarre reason, I stopped the recording, but I didn't stop the live on Facebook. And then I had people sending me comments going, "You're still live. You're still live."
I've had that where I had a problem with that. One technical problem where my mic wasn't and people were emailing me and said, "Louis, I can hear you. I can hear you behind the music," or whatever it was. But can you understand what I was? I was like, "Oh my God, what was I?"
Yeah, I did a seminar once. I did a seminar once, and I went to the bathroom and I didn't turn my mic off.
Oh, you had an attached microphone. Oh God, that's
luckily I don't embarrass easily. So when I came in and somebody whispered to me, "You know, your mic was on."
Oh, it's that.
So they heard me tinkling in the bathroom.
Well, at least you weren't talking to yourself, right? You see, my thing is I talk to myself and I answer.
Me too.
Well, otherwise, who's listening? I mean, what's the benefit of talking to yourself if you're not answering, right? I mean,
that's what I was doing with the Facebook Live thing. I was going, okay, so the meeting's over. Now we're going to. So I'm talking to myself, and I'm still live on Facebook. That was
I'm always apologizing to people when I'm in the grocery store, because I'll like, well, do I need this? I'm not sure. Do you have? I think we have some at home. You know, it's and people will look, and it's like I'm having a conference with myself about that, and they slowly walk away. They slowly, or sometimes not so slowly walk away.
One of the benefits of a mask, Louis, because nobody knows if it's you that's talking.
That's, that again, the masks, Tina Taylor did have, I hate to say some advantage at that time, but you're right. They didn't know. And when I was having those little conferences with myself, places that, But again, I find that, ladies and gentlemen, we're back with Louis B. Free Radio Show, Brain Food from Heartland. I've lost, I always say I'm so unprofessional. I've lost any sense of professionalism in radio years ago. I had some for a while. My early radio days, I was trying to be very, I probably didn't then either. That's probably inaccurate, but it's getting worse the older I'm getting. But there are some things about talking with yourself, because sometimes I'll catch myself doing it when I'm doing commentary on air. And every once in a while I'd get an email. People say, "Well, who are you talking with?" The voice, me. I'm trying to figure something out. I'm delighted.
When I
go ahead.
When I go to the grocery store, I do this whole thing with, what do I want to eat? And I might go, what do I want for dinner?
Yeah.
And then I'm like imagining it. And then I even go, because I'm imagining eating it, and do I really want it? And I'm sure people think, what is that crazy woman doing?
See, I do the same. I do the same, especially in the grocery store when I'm talking with myself about, well, how many cans should, I should probably get, and I'm actually having a conversation.
Yeah.
And you see, and then every once in a while you catch people looking at you like, but you're right about the mask. They don't know. You don't know, right?
Yeah, I may stay with the mask when I'm grocery shopping indefinitely, whatever happens.
Just
incognito when I'm having a conversation.
just because, right? Just because. Well, I'm honored to have you back and delighted. And by the way, Sherry DeBoe's listening. I'll never forget the first time I spoke with her live on air. Good morning, Sherry. A little bit about yourself and your background, if you would.
Yeah, I started out training and development director for an investment bank, and then I discovered Neuro Linguistic Programming, NLP. I went to see, I attended a training with Dr. Richard Bandler, and it just blew my mind. Suddenly, it's like somebody had given me the handbook for my brain, and I could follow the instructions. It was really simple. It wasn't like one of those handbooks you get when you get your computer or your new your new high definition TV or whatever, and you look at it and you get bamboozled. It was simple, easy, effective. And then I started on a whole other journey of practicing, learning NLP. And then from there, I decided I wanted to know more about hypnosis. So I went and I studied clinical hypnotherapy at a university in London. And my whole world changed, my whole business changed. Suddenly, instead of working in human resources, I was coaching, working as a therapist, and doing all sorts of other wonderful things where I was helping people, teaching people how they could change their lives and achieve the goals that they sought for themselves.
I've got to ask you, and I know we've spoken about this before, but what was it about, not about NLP, but that you were looking to learn more? You were doing very, very well in your career.
My brain is a sponge, Louis. I always want more. I'm always looking to learn more. If I hear about something that somebody else has been to that has been effective, I'll go along and I'll take a look and I'll see, will this work for me? Is this useful? I just love learning. I don't think we ever stop learning.
I think there's a difference again, and I'm not being argumentative. Some want to. No, I'm not. Yeah. I agree. Some people want to keep learning, and some, I'm going to say choose, don't get stuck. They choose to be more rigid in their thinking. And I guess I am going to be judgmental about that. I don't think you should be rigid in your thinking.
I think you're right, actually. I mean, I run training courses in the UK, and the students come along, and we have a lot of students coming through our courses. And I know out of each class, only 1 or 2 of them statistically will practice what we teach, will get really good at it, and will go away and do something with it. The others enjoy the ride. They tell us that they love the training. It's not my thoughts that they're enjoying. They tell us. They give us great feedback, and they keep coming back and doing other courses. But they're not interested in practicing. They're not interested in investing time in getting better at the skills they're learning. They just come, have fun on the course, take what they get from it, and then they'll come back to the next one.
So why do you think they're having fun, they're enjoying it?
Yeah, they say they do.
But don't put it into practice. I think it's sort of like, oh boy, I dare say, someone that goes for counseling or therapy or whatever, and goes regularly, or goes to a psychologist or whatever, feels, or someone that goes to a physician and doesn't take the should say advice, the medical, not whatever. It's, but I'm going to the doctor, but I'm going to therapy, but don't integrate it.
I think people want things done for them.
Yeah.
People don't want to invest and take responsibility. My business partner in the UK, Steve Crabb, he's another one of Dr. Bandler's master trainers. We've had people investigate and look statistically at what happens to people that do these courses. So they come in, and especially nowadays, lots of people are looking for a career change. And they think, oh, I'm going to be a coach, or I'm going to be a hypnotherapist, or whatever. So they invest their money. They invest their time of arriving at the seminar on time and doing the full day in the course. If you give them things to do outside of the course, like homeworky things, very few people will complete them. And then when they leave, and some of them may even start by setting up their business, their coaching practice or whatever, only something like 20% of people actually run a coaching practice. And out of that 20%, there's only about 5% that do really, really well. And the 5% that thrive and expand and do really well with their business, these are the people that invest the time, they take responsibility to practice. It's like all things. I mean, what did our parents tell us when we were at school, Louis, about doing our homework, studying, all that stuff, you know? Did you do it as a teenager?
You know me well enough. No.
Yeah, I see. No. Now, I am an anomaly, Louis, because I have a photographic memory. I was the annoying child in class that misbehaved, was really naughty, was a straight A student. And if the teacher interrupted me talking to my buddy and said, "What did I just say?" I could go, and I could just repeat it to them.
But I have to tell you, Tina Taylor, we loved those types in class. It was always great because you were, edgy and misbehaved, yet you knew what was going on. The teacher couldn't get you on it. You did well in class, so they couldn't really be. I suppose they could be punitive, but they, you shined in the class. So and I have to tell you, the other students had to love that. It's like, what did I just say? And you knew. It's like, yes.
And I just and once we used to do, all the girls used to have to do needlework because we were segregated into boys and girls in those days. And the boys did woodwork or metalwork. And in the needlework class, I was so naughty, she locked me in the supply cupboard.
Oh, that's awful. Oh, that's awful.
And then I realized there was a window. So I climbed out the window in the supply cupboard. And now I'm outside looking at all my students in the class, laughing because I'm outside. I was really bad.
I love that. I love that, though. I love that. And
I was so bad.
Don't you think there had to be a teacher that appreciated that about you, or no?
Well, I had a few teachers that I got really, really well with.
Yeah.
Like my history teacher, he managed to grab my attention. I was bored in class, Louis. Yeah. That's what it was. I was just bored. So the history teacher grabbed my attention. And he always, I had to pay attention because there was so much in what he was saying. And I love history to this very day because of him. My math teacher used to give me more difficult equations than she gave the others. So I had to think about what I was doing. So that they grabbed my attention. So history and math
are good teachers. Those are really good. Yeah.
They were brilliant teachers. Yeah. Yeah. The other teachers, they all seemed bored themselves. So.
And that's awful, when you have teachers like that. Again, and I've got great admiration for the good teachers, for the people that they're really dedicated. If you're not dedicated, you shouldn't be a teacher. Yeah. And you're saying that about your history teacher, and I've said this many times on the show. I can remember now. I've said now 50 years ago. Now it's 50. I don't know how many years. I don't want to do the math. 50 some years ago, when I was at our junior level in high school in American history, 11th grade, whatever. And we had a teacher who had collected over his career. And I say this a lot. I've said this a lot over my radio days, that I spell with a Z, of course, that he, because I think it's a good message. He had collected that year American history books from that year, that over his career, and gave everybody in the class a different book. And then would say something like, read the chapter on the Civil War and go to the board and call on people. What was the cause of the Civil War? And there were differences. And again, it impacted me today and I still feel somewhat because of that is why when I hear a news story today, I want to source it down. I want to check it out. I don't want to just take it because somebody said it, just because, who wrote the history book? Again, I'm not being critical of people that write history books, but it blew my mind over a half century ago. And he really got your attention. And by the way, as I've always said, did not give me good grades. You know, always said I could do better. You know, and he was right, but it impacted me today. So just someone wrote a book. Okay, who's the author? Who's the author of the history book? Where did the information? Can you check it? Can you cross check it? Whatever. And I get obsessive sometimes with the news today. I should do air quotes, the news, as to is it, you know, if it's a story I'm interested in, I really want to try to get the source. Is it accurate?
I don't trust news today, Louis.
Yeah.
There's been so much
neither do I.
information given about so many things, and you've got one news station giving you this spin and this story, then you've got another news station giving you a different spin and another story, and then if you look at headlines on newspapers, they're all different. How are we supposed to know what's actually happening?
Yeah, I used to have newspapers. Again, and I'm sure there's still some good newspapers out there. I'm with you on the newspapers also. I used to really, really trust newspapers. I used to love going to the Guardian. You know, we've talked about BBC. You know, I would trust the BBC.
Which is interesting because the people in England don't trust them anymore.
I said, we talked about that. You told me, I remember when we spoke before, you said, I don't remember if it was on or off or what we call it.
We call it a rude word. Yeah.
Yes. And I just remember, because again, there was a time where I can remember having a shortwave radio and listening to the BBC for news. And I'm talking obviously decades ago. And I don't anymore. I still will watch BBC. We can still get BBC here. I'll watch it. I'll watch Deutsche Welle out of Germany. You know, yet I still, if it's something that really interests me, because there seems to be so much bias. And again, and in fairness, you've got to select what stories you're covering. And I get that. There may be something that I think is really important that doesn't make the front page, if you will, of a newspaper. But I know in the States, newspapers, you know, local newspapers are disappearing. My studio was attached to the newsroom of a daily newspaper that ran for 150 years. And they're gone. Wow. So who goes to, again, the local news? Who goes to the courthouse every day? Who goes to the commissioners' meetings? Who goes to the township trustee meetings? You know, that's gone. So rife for corruption. Sorry, I'm going out. But again, you start to wonder. And let's get to anxiety, because again, a lot of people get anxious, concerned.
Because of the news, mostly. Yeah.
Again, somebody turned me on to the Morrissey song, Spent the Day in Bed. Stop watching the news. The news contrives to frighten you. It makes you feel small and afraid. I still want to know what's going on, but I have to self-limit. I have to limit the amount of news that I watch.
I've got so many clients at home in the UK, and they are so anxious. They were anxious about COVID.
Sure.
You know, what do we do? What don't we do? How bad is it? Am I going to die? And then they were anxious about the next thing that came up in the news and the next thing that came up in the news. And everything seems to have this huge spear fin on it. Everything is like aimed towards death and destruction. Nobody's actually focusing on, well, this is what's happening and this is what you can do. And people need strategies. They need to know what to do. You know, people need to know how to respond. When you hear stuff on the news, we were talking earlier about how my daughter's worried about what's going on in the Ukraine because my eldest grandson's going to be 18 soon, which is a wonderful thing for him to do. Yeah. You know, he's going to be a man. He's very excited. He's got more freedom. All of this is going on. And yet you worry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yet you worry about, could he be drafted?
Could he be drafted? You know, are we heading towards World War III? Is he going to be drafted? And loads of people, they worry about what ifs. Instead of focusing on what is, where are you at this point in time? What is happening? when I hear people tell me about their anxious thoughts and their anxiety and what they're doing in their head, it reminds me of that old, was it the Four Tops or the Temptations that sung that song about just your imagination?
Just your imagine. Oh, no one wants me to sing. Running away.
No
with
one
you.
wants me to sing. Especially
no one wants me to sing.
Those are my allergies. Yeah.
No one
just
wants
your
me to sing.
imagination running away with you. And that's, to me, that's the perfect description of what people do when they create anxiety. They create some imaginary thing in their mind. And then we say at home in the UK that they blow it out of all proportion.
Yeah.
They start creating amazing 3D horror movies, which of course isn't being helped right now because all the virus movies are appearing on TV. Have you noticed all the movies where somebody releases a virus on the planet and everybody dies?
Yeah.
All of this is appearing, and there's so much misinformation. They get it in the news, they find it on the TV, in the movies and the programs that are being produced. And it's creating this mindset that everybody's focusing on what if.
As opposed to what is. I love that.
What is? Yeah, what is? Where are we now? I mean, I love what I heard Richard say a few years ago, Dr. Richard Buckley. I heard him say a few years ago that a lot of people's anxiety is created by imaginary problems. And I love that. Because they're going down the road of death, destruction, disaster. Instead of thinking about, so where am I right now? What is happening? What's real? They need to come out of their head and come out into reality. Because when you come out into reality, the majority of people with anxiety, because there are some people who rightly so are anxious because of the situation they're in.
Sure.
The majority of people with anxiety, when they come out into the real world, there's nothing to be anxious about. When you teach them how to get away from those anxious thoughts, actually, it's okay. They've got things to be grateful for.
Yeah.
Now, those people that are in a situation where there's a reason for their anxiety, then you need to deal with what that reason was, and then you can teach them to come out into the real world and be okay. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. It does. When you think about, again, imagining, it's like that, call it worst case scenario, why some people, I had a friend out of the area who had, her husband was having medical stuff and going on, and not to belabor it, that he would have bad days where he was not nice, and he was dying, and we would talk, and she would say to me, he's having a good day today, but I know it will. I said, okay, and I got that. Again, you're the expert here, certainly, Tina Taylor, not me. But I would try to, I'd say, it's kind of like the weather. If it's a nice day, there's going to be bad weather down the road. It's going to be hard, but it doesn't mean you can't enjoy today. Enjoy today for what it is.
And even if it rains, we have umbrellas and raincoats.
Sure.
Look, I'm English. I know all about rain.
Well, and I'm a pluviophile. I learned a great word years ago. People that love I love the rain. I mean, my neighbors know it starts raining and I'm out, in my jammies. The rain.
Now that's a sight. I want pictures now.
No one wants to see that.
I definitely want pictures.
SpongeBob jammies, and but yet you're right. We've got umbrella. We've got things to deal with it. We've got things to deal with it.
Most things that happen to us, there are strategies to help us deal with it, no matter what it is. There are things we can do for ourselves. And I think it begins in here. It begins with how you perceive things to be.
I've got a question, if you don't mind, and I want to make sure that I get this in. Forgive me for interrupting you.
That's okay.
We'd love some advice on how a family member could help another family member that suffers from a PTSD that involves everything you're talking about to the max. to help somebody
Now,
with
and when
post-traumatic?
somebody has post-traumatic stress disorder, there are some very simple ways this can be dealt with. I think you would need somebody who is with experience of dealing with this. Now, there are great NLP techniques that can be used to help people with post-traumatic stress. I've worked very closely in the UK with service people coming back, and I actually work with a charity, a service persons charity in the UK, where we help the personnel when they come back with PTSD. It is a very simple procedure. It's not something that I can easily teach you on the air, unfortunately.
Can you tell us a little bit about the technique?
I can tell you how the technique works. When I'm doing it, I basically take them in their mind back to the event. But you have to be really careful when you do this, because you have to take them back to the event disassociated. Now, when we remember things, we think of them two ways. We think of them where we're fully into the memory, in which case we would have all those feelings that we had back then. So if you think about, I don't know, something like a wonderful Thanksgiving you had with your family. And if you think of that point and you are sitting at the table with your loved ones, and maybe you can taste whatever the food is that you're eating. You're associated. It's like you're there again. You can hear the music, you can hear the conversations, and you get all those great feelings you had when you were having your Thanksgiving dinner with your family. Now, if you put that memory like on a TV screen over there, so you're looking at yourself sitting at the table with all your family, you can look at it and you can intellectually know that it was a great time.
Yeah.
But you don't have those feelings.
You're not feel it. Yeah.
You don't feel it.
You're not smelling the smells.
You don't smell the smells. You don't taste the taste. You don't feel it because you've disassociated from it.
I see.
Now, when people have post-traumatic stress, what tends to happen is there is an event that caused it, and they keep reliving it, and they relive it associated. So they're in it. So, for example, if you were a service person and you were in a war zone, you're there again, and you've got the shells coming down around you. You've got all the horrific things that happened at that point, and you're in it. You're reliving it. So the first thing I do is I teach people how to disassociate from it. So they're not in it. They can look back, they can see that it happened and that they were there, but by pushing it away and disassociating from it, it feels different. It's not as scary. It doesn't create those huge feelings that you had. It's the same thing with people. As I said, we probably wouldn't talk about this, but it's just come up in my mind. It's the same thing of people when they're grieving. There is a period of time when a loved one dies, and whenever you think about them, you're at that point of death.
Yes.
And all you can feel is how you're going to miss them and the loss that you have. Now, the brain is designed to deal with this. And gradually over time, your brain learns to disassociate from that. So you can look back at that point in time and you know it was painful and you know you missed that person, but it's not as overwhelming as it was at the time when it happened. And this is what the brain is designed to do with traumatic events. It's designed to let them go. And not everybody does that. You could have two people in a traumatic event. I don't know whether I've spoken about this before. I used to be a police officer in London, and I was sent to an apartment block where somebody was on the roof of the apartment block. And as I drove up in the car, I'm on the radio trying to figure out which block it is, because there are several apartment blocks. And at that point, the person jumped and they landed on the bonnet or the hood of my car, my police car. Now, I had somebody with me sitting next to me. I was very shook up. I was very upset. All sorts of emotions went through my head. And somehow inside my body and my brain, I also knew this person had family here that I now had to deal with. And I don't know how, but I managed to put that to one side and go in and deal with the family and deal with the situation and report it. This is something police officers do across the world on a daily basis. Yeah, it's something that you somehow you do. The person sitting next to me, who had been a police officer for many years, had post-traumatic stress. Now, I didn't, and I'm sitting right next to him in the same situation. So post-traumatic stress comes from the way your brain deals with a situation. Because not all service people get PTSD. So I think it's a matter of, again, it's a strategy thing. You've got to teach them how to deal with that situation, that horrific situation they went through, so they can file it away where it needs to be filed away in their brain, and they can let go, because a lot of them don't know how to let go of that. And that's why they need somebody qualified who can help them let go. And here's the kicker. They have to want to let go.
That's a good.
I have worked with some service people and they haven't wanted to let go because they feel guilty that they lived and their friends didn't. So there may be other things that need to be dealt with. We don't know. I hope that helps your listener.
I hope so also. I think that's great. Tremendous and important advice. And you're right. And I'm not talking about this particular individual, but there are people that, for whatever reason, don't want to let go. I'm not talking about service people, but I hear what you're saying about someone who, why did I live? That survivor's guilt.
There is, and there are even survivor's guilt from people who have been raped, people who have been mugged, attacked. They have survivor's guilt because for some bizarre reason, a lot of these people also think, what did I do wrong?
That put them, you mean that put them in that
Was
situation?
it their fault? Like a rape victim may think, was it her fault? What did she do wrong? Did she give the wrong signals?
But they have to, yeah. But Tina Taylor and I've talked a lot about this with my own personal experience. Sexually abused as a kid. You feel. I remember a time when I felt about what was it about me? What was it about me? I mean, for years I thought, and then what I came across a picture of myself at that age as a child. It's like, and that was a turning point for me. I was a little kid. I wasn't seeing myself, as a little kid. I was seeing myself as the age I was thinking, I was feeling, what did I do? And when you say about people holding on, I'm not talking about PTSD with military people, et cetera, but there are people, I'm not talking about that individual that wrote in about her situation with her family member, but there are people that I have found that have been sexually abused, that becomes part of their identity. And they choose, I'm saying, choose to see themselves as a victim as opposed to being victimized. And that's part of their identity.
It's the same with people with anxiety. People will come to see me and they'll tell me that they want help with fears or anxieties. And then they'll say, I'm an anxious person.
You identify.
They identify as being an anxious person. Or they'll say, I'm a glass half full person. I'm a very negative person, and that's their whole identities. That's who they are. That's how they perceive themselves. And sometimes you have to start there, because that's part of their belief system. And maybe somewhere within their psyche, maybe they value being an anxious person. I know this may sound weird to a lot of people listening, but some people have what psychologically we classify as being called secondary gain. They get something out of their problems. And it's heartbreaking when you meet somebody and they have a great reason to have that problem. And sometimes they will fight tooth and nail to hang on to it because of what they get out of it. I had a client many years ago, and she classed herself as being obsessive compulsive. She had a thing about germs. So she was washing her hands so many times that her hands were all red and raw. And because she was worried about germs, she didn't want to touch anything or do anything. Now, within her marriage and her home, she did nothing. Her husband did everything. She had people keep cleaning for her. Food was brought in. Her children were looked after, taken to school, brought home, etc., etc. And when she came to see me, she brought her husband with her. And while we were talking about, what did she want to achieve? What had she done in the past? I want to know, what's worked for her in the past, what hasn't worked, because obviously she's done something that hasn't worked. If I try and do something similar, her brain's immediately going to go, well, this isn't going to work. So I need that information. It came out quite quickly that she had to keep trying to get better. Otherwise, her husband was going to leave her.
I see.
And he was sitting there, and I played devil's advocate. There's a great, he was actually a social worker. His name's Frank Farrelly. He was from the US. I loved Frank. He did something that he called provocative therapy. So I decided to be a little bit provocative. And I turned to her husband and I went, oh, so she doesn't have to get better for you to stay. She just has to try to get better.
I love that.
And her face.
That's great.
She was so angry. And he just went, oh. And then we had a completely different conversation for the rest. But initially she did not want to get better because she loved the fact that she could watch TV all day and he did everything.
It worked. It was part of a system for them.
It was a system for her. And some people have these systems. Not all. Sure. But some do.
And you've got to get in there and find out what, again, like some people that if they identify themselves, back to the victim thing, if I identify myself as a victim, then I'm not really responsible for my healing because I'm being victimized. So I don't have to take responsibility for it because look what, woe is me, poor pitiful me.
Yeah, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. I'm an anxious person. It's not my fault. I'm a glass half full person. By changing that whole perception of who they are and what they're capable of, you can then begin to open up and allow them to do other things.
So, and you and I have spoken many times over the years, and I've gotten to know an awful lot about you. How does that feel? I know I've asked you before, when you get to that, again, I'll call it an aha moment, or when people get it, or you're doing hypnosis, and how does that feel for Tina Taylor?
Well, I have the best job in the world.
Yeah,
I do.
You tell me that.
Yeah, I have the best job in the world because I get to help people let go of their anxieties, their fears. I get to help people get pregnant. I get to help people do all sorts of things. And when they achieve that, I get such a high. Because for me, my life is about teaching people how they can change their neurology, how they can change the way they're thinking. And as Dr. Bandler says, you change the way you think, you change the way you feel, ergo, you change the way you respond and behave in the world. It's about education. I don't see myself as a therapist. I think of myself as a recovering psychotherapist.
Tell me about that. I love that. Recovering psychotherapist.
Well,
respectfully to all the psychotherapists out there, right?
Yeah. In the UK, because of my training, I got to register as a psychotherapist because of my qualifications, which meant that I got a lot of clients. But a lot of psychotherapists tend to be like Freudian, and they want people to discover why they are the way they are. They delve into the past a lot. They have people thinking about how they feel about things. And for a lot of people, that will work. Doesn't work for everyone, does work for a lot of people. I get that. What I loved about NLP is that I could teach people how they could change the way they were feeling. So that wasn't really what psychotherapy was all about in the UK. So I decided I was a recovering psychotherapist.
I love that. That's great. A recovering psychotherapist. Again, finding out why is, or what is, can be important, but what now, right?
It can be so powerful, and it can help a lot of people once they go, oh, that's why that's what that's all about. And it can help a lot of people, not everyone.
Not everyone.
Some people want their hands held and they want to be shown.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, if you do this, you get this.
And they like the idea of coming, like we were talking about earlier. They like the idea, or they feel that they're doing something.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, again, the king of the bad analogy. It's like going to the gym, and it's great. I know there are people that go to the gym, and especially seniors, for the social aspect. But there's one thing to go to the gym, and it's another thing to work out. And it's great for the people that, again, some people need the social aspect or want the social aspect, and that's great. But you're not working out, and so you're not going to have the results of someone working out. It may be good for you. Again, I'm not judging it emotionally or socially or whatever, but it's like going to therapy but not doing the work.
Yeah, it's like loads of people buy self-help books.
Yeah.
Especially people that maybe they can't afford to go and see a therapist, and they'll see a book on how to get over anxiety or something, and they'll buy the book.
Yeah. Sorry, I shouldn't be laughing.
And they read the book, I think, but they don't do any of the processes or exercises in the book. They skip those pages. I've had people come to see me, and they've bought some of Richard's books. Richard's books, Dr. Bandler's books, have great processes within them. So you'll have a chapter explaining what's going on, and then at the end of the chapter, you'll have exercises to do. And if you follow the book and the instructions and you do the exercises, you'll learn how to change things. And people will say, oh, I bought this book.
Bought the book.
But I'm no different. And I'll go, well, I said, you have to excuse me. First question is, did you read it? Oh yeah, I read it. Did you do any of the exercises in it? Any of the experiments? Oh no, I didn't do any of that. I just read the book. And again, we're back to where we started, where people, they don't want to take responsibility. Some people need someone else to do it for them, to hold their hand and take them on a journey.
When you say that it makes me think of people that might have a lot of cookbooks at home, but have never made a recipe, right? Again, I don't want to make it overly simplistic, but it's like, I want to get a I don't know, vegetarian cookbook or how to, 50 ways to do potatoes or whatever. What do you, and they this one looks delicious. This one looks right. This one sounds good. Yet they never actually put it into practice.
No, I've done that. I love Italian food. One of my best friends at home in the UK, he's Italian, and he has this amazing cookbook. He comes out with some great dishes, and he got me an English translation of this cookbook. I think I've done one dish out of it, and I've had the book 2 years.
Well,
It's on the side.
how was the one dish?
It was amazing. It was really good.
But again, you've got to want it. You've got to do the work. You know, going to, like I said, going to the gym, not exercising or whatever, going, going to therapy and not doing the work, just isn't going to change it. Yet people say, well, I went to therapy, or I've heard that with therapists. And again, to be 100% open myself, there was a time, and this was many decades ago, where I was concerned about some behaviors, et cetera, related to sexual abuse. Didn't realize it at the time, not to get into too much. And I remember going, and someone was highly recommended, and I went, and every time I started to feel emotional, I would change the subject, and the therapist would go right along with me, and we'd talk about movies, or she'd make tea or whatever. And I realized that I wasn't, I was going, and it's like, I'm going, yet, it wasn't, it wasn't, nothing it was happening. And you have to find someone else, someone who you work with, and that you want to do the work.
And you have to also find somebody that will keep you on track.
Yes. Yeah, because it was very easy for me to just start to talk about as soon as I would feel it. And by the way, I had found someone else who, I can't believe I'm even remembering some of this, was actually a professor at Kent State. And they said, you ought to talk to this lady. And at the time, she was many decades, very grandmotherly, and she was very sweet. And I remember talking with her in her office. I started to get a little bit emotional. I said, you know what, I'm going to go. It wasn't like a therapy, it wasn't paid. It was just talking with someone. And I'll never forget, she kind of slid her chair back to kind of block my path nicely, opened the bottom drawer, pulled out some Kleenex, and said to me, I'm going to get emotional now. She said, please stay. Yeah. And it was a real turning point for me. Yeah. It was just those words. And here I am. And again, this is probably how many years ago? 35, maybe 40 years ago. And I still remember that. She wasn't going to let me walk, wasn't going to let me do my thing, wasn't going to let me avoid the issue. Wasn't going to let me, urged me very beautifully to just, pulled out the Kleenex, please stay. Kind of blocked my path a little bit.
And I think what you said is also the perfect reason why some people cannot be helped online via Zoom. Because if they're in my office, they're in my office, and they want to change the subject and spin round, I can pull them back on point.
It's more difficult on Zoom.
But on Zoom, they can just switch off and walk away.
That's really interesting. How has it worked for you through the pandemic, doing things on Zoom?
If I have somebody that I know and I've worked with previously, I'm quite happy to work with them on Zoom. For a new client, a new patient, if it's something simple, I'll do it. If we're talking about something where there might be some huge mental issues like post-traumatic stress or something like that going on, I won't do it on Zoom. I want them face to face. Because a lot of time, you need them face to face. A lot of time, when you're dealing with those kind of issues, if someone has post-traumatic stress, if they've been raped, they've been victimized or whatever, there could be a huge emotional outlet from them. In which case, I want them in front of me. I don't want them however many miles away where I can't reach out to them.
That when we hear that a lot with, and again, and I think Zoom, using Zoom now, I think Zoom is great, over the years.
It can be beautiful. Yeah.
I mean, it's nice even for me, it's nice to be able to make eye contact with someone. I know certainly through COVID, but in my early radio days, it was everything was on the phone. I never was able to, and you can connect more. And I get that. Yet it's certainly not ideal for.
Not when you're dealing with big issues with people. It makes things challenging, shall we say.
Yeah, and you're right, where people can just turn it off or
Yeah.
walk away, and it's again, when I'm thinking about my experience, obviously they didn't have Zoom back then, but that experience, that would have been it. I would have been like,
Yeah.
I've got to go, or
You
I've
could have
got a
said, I've
call
got to
coming
go.
in, or
You'd have
whatever.
switched off, left the meeting.
That would have been it. Yeah. I
Yeah.
gotta
And
go.
you wouldn't have had the
That's right.
breakthrough.
Yeah, wouldn't have had the breakthrough.
Yeah.
Which is important, which was
It is.
so
Yeah.
important at the time. When for hypnosis, can you, I know you got to go in a little bit, and I'm always delighted, Tina Taylor, to talk with you. We've got, first, let's talk a little bit about your website. We've got links up, tina-taylor.com. Go ahead.
We do, yes. So on tina-taylor.com, you can find information about me and the kind of things that I do when I'm working with people. Now, also, I have a new website, Louis. I've just realized I haven't told you about my new website.
You haven't.
So my new website is nlpmasterclass.co.uk. On that website, you'll find information of the different trainings and things that I do in the UK. There are also podcasts you can listen to about me talking about NLP.
That's great. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. So if you register, you can get access to the area where you'll find free podcasts. And there's all sorts of other freebies and things that you can download and have a look at to do with NLP. So that's www.nlpmasterclass.co.uk. We also have, we did a mission last year, a prosperity mission, which is an online thing that we did from the UK, which was really, really popular. And we're going to be running another one in the next couple of months. And that's all online. And we basically teach you how to review your beliefs and values and what's holding you back. And we give you very simple strategies for changing that process in your mind.
I love that. I love that site. We'll have a link up to that in just a couple of minutes, and it's nlpmasterclass.co.uk. nlpmasterclass, obviously one word, .co.uk. Do we still have to say one word with the address? I don't know. All one word. I guess that's an old person thing. Of course, it's all one word.
It is all one word. Yeah.
Of course it is. Hypnosis. Can you just explain? So many people think hypnosis, don't understand hypnosis.
Yeah. When I first heard about hypnosis, when I first went to my very first NLP training, and that was my first experience of hypnosis, in my head, my first thought was, oh, God, this, and I thought it was going to be rubbish. And then I realized that I went into hypnotic states when I was focused on something, when I was sitting back and thinking about how I was going to do something, when I was delving into my learning processes. And every human being on the planet goes into a hypnotic state at some point. It's something we do naturally. And you can track the whole hypnosis thing all the way back to dream temples that the Romans had. They were using hypnosis. There's documents in what Dr. Bandler calls the British Looting Museum, the British Museum in London, where you can see that the Greeks used hypnosis, the Egyptians used hypnosis. All throughout history, shamans use hypnosis when they're doing their chanting and when they're working with people. So the state that we call hypnosis is a naturally occurring state of mind. Now we can harness that state and it can help us do stuff. Now, the father of hypnotherapy is someone called Dr. Milton Erickson. Now he's an American psychiatrist who used hypnosis in his practice to help his patients achieve their goals. There's an Ericksonian society in Phoenix, which is where Milton came from. So you can go and explore Milton. So it's fascinating, isn't it? The father of hypnotherapy on the planet today was an American.
Was an American. I love that.
Yeah.
And again, and you use it regularly.
I use it most of the time. You can use conversational hypnosis too. You don't have to put someone into a trance.
Explain that conversational hypnosis. If you
So it all depends on how you formulate your words, the sequencing, and the different words that you can mark out will be marking out what you want the other person to do. Salespeople do it. They use it on adverts. It's everywhere. I'm sorry, that was really mean.
No, that was that was not mean at all. That was wonderful. Somebody just emailed me about hypnosis and a show called Mrs. Maisel. I don't know the scene.
I haven't seen that show, but yeah, possibly.
Said, you've got to see the
I'm going to
hypnosis
look at
scene
Mrs. Maisel.
with
Yeah.
Mrs. Maisel's mother. Okay.
Yeah.
Tina Taylor, I love talking with you. I'm so grateful that you made time. I'm glad that you're able to get back in the States for a lot of these.
I am so excited. We haven't been able to be here for 2 years because we weren't allowed in. But we're here now. We're really happy.
And things are going obviously very, very well.
They are. Yeah, everything is definitely going very well. Dr. Bandler is on fire. I mean, the seminar is amazing. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Hopefully things will continue the way they are. Correct?
I hope so too.
And what do you, when you're here in the States, what do you miss about the UK? Yeah. Oh, is that okay? Am I?
Probably my daughter and my grandchildren. That's it, really.
Yeah, of course.
Family. I miss family. I don't miss the UK at all. I don't miss the weather. I don't miss the fact that everybody whinges and whines about everything. No,
see,
I don't miss
it's interesting because a lot of people would, a lot of people in the States would say people are whining about everything. People were complaining. It's just that perspective, and I appreciate that from you because it's a fresh perspective for people.
Well, no, I mean here, everybody smiles. Everybody says hello. How are you? You walk into an elevator and you get a big smile. How are you? Oh, where are you from? And there's conversation. You walk into an elevator in the UK and everybody goes.
So they look. They want. Yeah.
No eye contact.
You find it that different?
It can be. Yeah, London is terrible. I love going into London because I freak everybody out because I talk to everybody, and they hate it. I go, hello, isn't it a nice day today? And they're like, someone's talking to me.
Now I want to play London Calling by The Clash. Tina Taylor, I'm grateful for the can I say relationship and friendship that we've developed over the years.
It's always great to talk to you, Louis. One of these days we have to meet. We have to meet for some toast with Marmite, right? Or Marmite cake even, I don't know. That picture, what is that, by the way, that you... I have no idea. I found it the other day and thought of you. A Marmite cake. I love my Marmite. I love Marmite toast with, my thing these days has been toast, a certain bread that I like with sprouted grains with some Marmite and some smashed avocado on it. I don't know, avocado toast became a big thing. It was like, I've been putting avocado on toast, and then I never forget, there was an article in the New York Times, how to make Marmite toast. I mean, how to make avocado toast. It's like, really? I mean, I know you can jazz it up with different things. You get an avocado, you smash it on the toast and you eat it. Yeah. But I love Marmite and avocado on toast. Yeah, Marmite and peanut butter is really good. I don't think I've ever had Marmite. I never even thought about Marmite. Marmite and peanut butter, really yummy. Note to self, Marmite and peanut butter, seriously, on toast, Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I like it on a bagel, but yeah, toast. On a bagel. Mm-hmm. Oh, I think you've just done me in for the weekend. It's going to be a Marmite on the bagel. Let me know what you think. I love peanut. I love
peanut butter. I love nut butter. I love peanut. You know, again, one of my, sometimes 3, 4 in the morning, if I'm not sleeping, I get a jar of peanut butter and I'm just there with a butter knife or a spoon and just, I go crazy for some peanut butter. Marmite.
Wait till you add Marmite to it.
I'm in. Tina Taylor, again, tina-taylor.com, and the new website, nlpmasterclass.co.uk. I've got the links up. I'm grateful for you, to you and for you. Thanks.
Lovely to talk to you again, Louis.
Always lovely. Thank you so much.
Speak to you when I'm on the other side.
Yeah, when you're back in the UK, we'll connect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Say hi to everybody.
Bye, Louis.
Bye. Say hi to everybody.
Bye.